Hello and good day to all of you. I am AC and I welcome you to this video series where we will be discussing some aspects of the English language and its history. As you are all aware, we are facing the ravages of a novel disease, and thus it was imperative that we adapt to novel ways for advancing our course of life. Remote learning is new to both you, the students, and us, the teachers. It is likely to present unique challenges which were absent in standard classroom lectures that we all were habituated to. But we will try to solve these issues as we go along and make the best of the tough times we are currently living in. Now, let us focus our attention to the subject of today's discussion. For the semester 1 students starting their course in the year 2020, NBU has reduced the expanse of the existing syllabus and they have published a truncated syllabus. This lecture series is meant to cover the initial parts of the Honours Core Course 1. In the first unit, there are three broad topics for us to consider. And these topics are: number 1, the general features of English; number 2, Scandinavian elements; and number 3, Latin and Greek elements. But before we delve into these topics, we shall better try to attain a clear idea of the concepts, spaces, and timelines that will shape our study of the English language. Let us first ponder a bit on the concepts of language and literature. We all use some form of language or other to express ourselves. We all have some basic understanding of what constitutes a language, how it works, and how we use it to successfully perform our day-to-day activities. But then how do linguists view language? Linguists, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, are people who specialize in studying languages and their inner workings. In their book titled Modern Linguistics, S.K. Verma and N. Krishnaswamy note that a language is made up of two levels of patterning. Firstly, there are the patterns of different sounds, and then there are the patterns of words and morphemes. You all know what a word is, but you may not have heard about morphemes. A morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit that constitutes language. Or in other words, a morpheme cannot be further divided without voiding its meaning. Verma and Krishnaswamy further comment that the age of human language has been put back to at least 6,500 years before Common Era. There may have been languages even before that period, but we currently don't have any access to the knowledge of their existence. Then the age of writing is thought to have started somewhere between 3,500 and 2,900 years before Common Era. Now, there is no single static definition of what language is. Languages are largely considered to be man-made systems developed in order to represent one's thoughts and experiences to other members of the community. Human languages used different kinds of symbols and sound patterns in order to represent some thought or some item, something abstract or concrete. These symbolic systems have been developed by different communities in different geographical locations. Yet, languages have traveled to different lands, exchanged words and speech patterns with other languages, and branched off into multiple different languages at different points of human history. Our study shall engage us to studying the history and development of some selected phases and evolutions of the English language. I hope that by now you have some basic ideas regarding what is language. So let us pursue the idea of literature for a bit. During our school days, we have studied literature. And now you have enrolled to study English literature in a college as part of your graduation courses. Like language, literature also evades any attempt at confining it within any rigid boundary of definition. Different critics have provided different takes on what is or is not considered literature. J. Cuddon, in the Penguin Dictionary of Literary Terms and Literary Theory, has defined literature as a vague term, denoting works that fall into the major genres like epic, drama, lyric, novel, short story, etc. He comments that the term literature carries with it a certain implication that the work in question is superior in quality than ordinary written works. Then M.H. Abrams comments that the term literature has been used to designate fictional and imaginative writings like poetry, prose, fiction, and drama. However, Abrams also mentions that philosophical, historical, and even scientific works can be considered as works of literature by the virtue of their elevated expression and emotion. In another sense yet, any printed matter is considered to be literature, such as the manual that comes with a refrigerator. Michael Alexander, in his A History of English Literature, notes a simple rule of judging a piece of writing as literature. He says that, and I quote, "The merit of a piece of writing lies in its combination of literary art and human interest," unquote. So we can gather from these views that literature is generally considered as a product of artistic and aesthetic creative faculty of humans, which uses language as a mode of representation, but exceeds day-to-day mundane usage of a language. Literature engages the attention and imagination of the greater human society, and hence literature provides us a unique glance into the human reality of not only our own society, but of different societies around the world. As literature is born out of a specific time in history and at a specific geographical space, they allow us to travel to remote places and distant times. And this is what makes study of literature important, not only for its academic value, but more importantly for the value it adds to our lives and our worldviews. In this series of lectures, however, we shall be focusing on the vehicle that carries the creative force of literature, and that vehicle is language. Two terms that you might start hearing a lot are philology and linguistics. What do we mean by these two terms? M.H. Abrams explains that philology mainly refers to a diachronic study of language. And what is that? It is the study of the evolution of a family of languages and the changes that occur within particular languages with the passage of time, Linguistics is somewhat different, as it is a synchronic study of language. That is, the study of the structure and components of a particular language at a specific time. The topics included in our syllabus point toward a diachronic study of English language. In other words, we are going to study the philology of English language. We have already gained some insight into what do we mean by language. But when we say English language, one perplexing question that might appear is that what do we mean when we use the word English? We have had English as a subject, but what do we seek to signify? What do we mean when we use the term English before language or literature? To understand this, we need to understand the history of the land we now know as England, the people whom we call English. We also need to know their relationship to different races and language groups in Europe and Asia. So, in the next video, we will discuss how the history of the English people charted itself and how the language we now consider so universal was developed. And I will also suggest some books for you to follow.